Ready? Call the committee of the whole meeting to order. Councilman Porter is present. Councilwoman Wallman is present. Vice Mayor Losner and Councilwoman Bell is present. Item 2A is the approval of the April 10, 2007 minutes. The motion for approval.
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Bell. Is there a second?
Second, Mayor.
Second by Councilman Porter. Any questions on the minutes? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 2B is a discussion by the City Council on federal lobbyists.
Mr. Mayor and Council, this was a topic that Councilman Hodge wanted to put on the agenda. I do believe he wanted discussion of federal lobbyists, possibly a change in the federal lobbyist. I believe Holland and Knight was someone that possibly he had in mind. We currently use a Caldy and Fay. Our contract with him goes through September 30th of 07. That means a Caldy and Fay. There is a termination of notice of 30 days if you chose to change out your federal lobbyist, but I'm not sure what Councilman Hodge had intended, but he did, I think, want to bring this discussion up.
Can I just ask a question, Mayor? How did we get a called-in Fay? Was it an RFP, or how did we end up? And let me say this: I don't know how you RFP a service like a lobbyist, because I mean, you can't look at price and say, well, one's better than the other.
Professional service. This goes back a little bit in history, back to 2001, where we actually did put out a RFP for lobbyists, and we had a number of them respond. Not a Caldy and Fay at that time. We're not on that respondents list. And as we looked through, most of them were more expensive than what the city had. And we had one lobbyist that we'd had for a number of years up at the federal level, if you'll recall. And I can't think of his name right now. Jimmy Huggins. That's it.
Yeah.
Jimmy Huggins. And we thought maybe we'd probably want to try somebody different than Jimmy. We'd had him for a number of years, and actually we hadn't had much results out of it. So at that point I had talked around and talked to an individual, recommended a Caldy and Fay. So there was not another RFP but a Caldy and Fay, and then we checked around. They seemed to be a very good lobbying firm, and so we entered into contract with them. We've had them now, I think, going on 4 years as a lobbyist for our federal interests.
Let me suggest this. Mr. Hodge is not here, but it was my intention when I saw this on the agenda to ask the Vice Mayor, Ms. Wallman and Mr. Hodge, to take a look at it and bring back a recommendation to the council at some point.
That's fine.
Okay.
Be happy to take that on. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vice Mayor. Ms. Wallman? Thank you. If we can move on. Item 2C is an RFP, CDBG Disaster Recovery Initiative Grant for administration and implementation.
Mr. Mayor and Council, it's staff's recommendation that I be authorized to sign an agreement with Miami-Dade County to receive some CDBG funds in the amount of $750,000. This is a part of a CDBG disaster relief fund. Additional monies, Florida received a total of $82,904,000, of which the county received $16.1 million. And we'll be using these funds for low to moderate income citizens in need of housing assistance that have experienced a loss as a result of one of the named hurricanes, I think in 2005. The original amount was $773,196, but $23,196 goes to the county for admin, so we see $750.
Who makes the determination of eligibility?
Well,
do we do that?
I'm sorry?
Do we determine eligibility?
Yes, this will move into something that's not here yet, but the consultant to do that. Rick, you might want to make a comment on that.
Yes, sir. We have a housing assistance plan that dictates, I didn't have a copy of it with me, but dictates how we will select beneficiaries. We're already working with that housing assistance plan to come up with the criteria. I think it prioritizes elderly and other specific priorities. One of the things about this particular grant, it was not only damage-based from Hurricane Wilma and the other named storms, it also had to be undertaken in an area that was significantly low and moderate in income population. If the council remembers, last July we put in an application to the county. It was either for $1.3 or $1.5 million, with one body of houses in the southwest neighborhood and one body of houses in the northwest neighborhood. And the county cut us down to $750,000 and wanted us to concentrate in the southwest neighborhood. So the homes that we're going to rehabilitate with this money will be located in the southwest neighborhood. Our application said that we would only address homeowner occupied, that we would not address a rental or any multifamily units. So we'll be looking for homeowner occupied, probably occupied by elderly is the highest priority that did suffer damage from the storms, and then we'll go to lower priorities from that. And if the council wishes us to bring a list to the council for approval, we'll be glad to do that, or we'll just prioritize them and choose them at the staff level.
The determination of the amount was based on population size. How did the county break it down?
Well, the county said all of the cities could probably apply for this $20 million and put it to good use. So we want you to get very realistic, document in some way the number of people that you're wanting to help, document their income level, document the damage, and they give us 2 days to get it done. So because of time constraints, what we did is we literally got out and rode every street in the northwest area and the southwest area, and we looked for homes that still had blue tarps or other kinds of roof damage or other damage that was obvious from the storm, and we said, this is how many we've got. And we figured what the average cost of a reasonable repair per house would be and asked for about half of that, because we knew we weren't going to get a whole lot more, and if we got greedy, it probably would hurt us more than help us. So we asked for 1.5 million, and we got 750,000. And that's how we literally came up with it.
Now, Rick, how will the funds be dispersed? Would it, say if I have a blue tarp, would you give me the money to get a roof, or would you pay the roofer directly? How would that work?
We will work with you. We will have a housing rehab specialist go look at the house, and we're going to address every issue that it takes to bring the house up to code so it will withstand a storm. Now, that's not today's code, but the code that we have to bring it up to for the year it was built, plus Section 8 housing quality standards. That's why we're only going to do about 8 houses with $750,000, because we intend to invest significant sums in a number of houses so that those houses don't have to be readdressed the next time we have a little blow. The housing rehab specialist will determine what has to be done. We will work with the homeowner to secure bids from contractors to do the work, and then we will work with the homeowner through the construction process, and every time the contractor needs to do a draw, the homeowner will have to sign off on it, and then we'll pay the contractor and the homeowner on the check, and the homeowner will have to endorse the check over to the contractor. That way there's not the argument of I didn't think the work was done and that kind of stuff. Just like when you have a house done, the bank gives you a check payable to you and the contractor, and you sign it and you get it over to the contractor. So it'll be much the same kind of process.
So I'm just hoping that we are a model city in the execution of the program and the disbursement of the funds, simply because of the problem right now with housing funds and the way the county have been approving these funds and dispersing these funds, and the potential scandal, the allegation of scandal and misappropriation of funds. So let us make sure that we have a model program and we cross every T and dot every I to respond appropriately to the execution of the program. Ms. Bell and then Ms. Waldman.
Thank you. I think it would behoove the CRA as well as the City of Homestead, that the council does get to take a look at the choices of whom you're going to help and why you're helping them as opposed to the others. I certainly myself would like to see everybody that you think is truly in need, and I'd like to see why.
That's not a problem. At some point, we would have to bring the names to you, even if you weren't doing an approval process, so that you could have an opportunity to say, well, wait a minute, I'm related to them, I've got a conflict of interest here, because one of the things we've got to deal with when you're dealing with federal money that goes to the state is deal with conflicts of interest, and we don't want someone on the council to not know that there's a conflict until the house is half done. And the truth of the matter is if we're helping someone who is in desperate need and we say, are you related to anyone on the council, they're liable to say no even when the answer is yes, simply because they're afraid that if they say yes, they'll get passed over. And we don't want anybody on the council to be put in that kind of position where the first thing you know that there's a conflict is when the Ethics Commission walks down the road from Miami or a newspaper story comes out. So in housing particularly, we've got to be protective of the council from a conflict of interest standpoint.
Thank you, Ms. Woolman.
Ms. Bell was reading my mind. That was exactly what I was going to ask, and you answered very nicely. Thank you.
Ms. Weissman?
Thank you. Just to clarify, this is going to do the terms of the grant limited to the southwest area?
Yes.
Okay. We have low to moderate income elderly throughout this community who have needs.
Absolutely.
We have a holiday home makeover that already went down there. And if my math is right, 8 houses at $750,000 total is $93,750
Per house.
average per house. I've seen closings on houses in that neighborhood after taking into account pre-hurricane damage that the entire value of the house was never that. And I don't really know if that's a good bang for our buck. I mean, it's really a tough situation.
We may well do more houses than that. We just didn't want to have to commit to more than that when we did not have the opportunity to go look at the specifics of any one house before we put in our application. One of the things that you do in housing rehab is you don't address your worst houses first. If you pick 15 that you would like to help, you generally start with those that need the least and work your way to those that need the most so that you make your housing numbers rather than going the other way around and run out of money at number 6.5.
My primary concern is there's need throughout this community, and I hope in the future we have some opportunity to spread the monies that flow down throughout. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Weissman.
Mayor, I have one more question.
Ms. Bell?
Yeah, I would like to ask, why did they say the South, why would the county step in and say the Southwest only when we have a very poor district in the area of the Northwest? That's particularly the study area of the new master plan. That's really peculiar to me.
When they said we can only give you $750,000, and in the application we came up with the demographics for each of those two areas based on what we could determine from census data, since that area in the Southwest was a poorer area demographically, that's the one the county told us they would prefer that we would address, because part of what they had to do with the state was not only guarantee that the funds were individually household by household going to help low and moderate income families, but that the areas that were addressed were areas where significant poverty and that kind of stuff existed. Did they require us in the Southwest? No, but they let it be known that they would have much rather seen it there than anywhere else, and that's where we settled on.
So it's not a requirement?
It is now. It was a firm request at the time that the contract was being offered to us, and we accepted the contract under those terms, that we would do it in the Southwest neighborhood.
Okay, because it's very peculiar to me. I would think that it wouldn't matter to them whether it was 4 houses or 5 houses in the Southwest and another 4 or 5 in the poorer Northwest. I don't understand the parameters of that type of a request, because we have a lot of elderly, we have a lot of seniors who are on very fixed incomes, who own their homes, and maybe didn't get enough to cover their roofs and in the Northwest, as well as the duplex city area, and there are people who own their own homes in that particular area as well. It's not just rental. So it's really kind of confusing to me that they would specify a particular area rather than poverty within both areas.
We, in doing the application, segregated the two areas into this many in the Northwest, this much in the Southwest. And they had the demographics for each area. They didn't say you've got to do the Southwest if you want the money. That never came out of their mouth. But they really wanted us to do the Southwest area, particularly to try to start implementing our Southwest master plan that they were aware of, and other factors.
Okay. I'm not picking up on it that it was a mandate, but then it was a mandate, but it really wasn't a mandate.
Nowhere in writing does it say that.
I'm going to leave that alone right now, Mayor. Thank you.
Any other comments? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Councilwoman Bell, Finance Committee.
Thank you, Mayor. We have bid 200703, street resurfacing, tab 3.
Yes, Councilman Bell, Mayor, Council. This is a continuing bid that we have for street resurfacing that supplements our people in Public Works and fixing streets. The actual expenditures as needed as we use them. So there's not an exact budget figure there. But we use close to, Julio, about 500,000.
For example, last year we used 600,000.
600,000 last year.
Well, this clearly is the lowest bidder. Any comments or questions from council? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move the recommendation, Madam Chair.
It's been properly moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Waldman. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And the ayes carry. Thank you. Bid number 200707, Workforce Housing Assessment and Action Study. That's just a rehash of what we just discussed.
Move the recommendation.
Been properly moved by Councilman Porter.
Second.
Been seconded by Mayor Warren. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And the ayes carry. Thank you, Mayor.
That completes our committee of the whole. Any further business, Ms. Bell, for the committee of the whole?
Glad to be back. I had a very successful lobbying trip in Tallahassee. I had 6 different meetings with different members of the House and Senate, and I went back on Friday since I stayed in Tallahassee and testified before council on red light running legislation. We got a unanimous recommendation out of council to the floor, but we absolutely know that while we wouldn't have much problem in the House, that the Senate leadership is going to stall it. So the Senate leader is not comfortable with it. He considers it a privacy issue, and I spoke that if you can get a ticket, going through a toll, they can take a picture of your license plate going through a toll. Why can't they take a picture of your license plate going through a red light? So it makes absolutely no sense to me. This is actually the 4th year that red light running has been an issue in the Florida legislature. This is the first year that the city of Homestead has made it their issue. And what I would recommend, and I recommended this to our lobbyists, is that next year that we go up there as a powerhouse, that we don't just go up as a city of Homestead, but that when we go to the Florida House, when we go in council, that we go with Pinecrest, and we go with Palmetto Bay, and we go with all of the cities of Florida City and municipalities, that even if they just stand up and wave support in council, that we go as a powerhouse, and then we do a massive email campaign. This is such a serious, red light running has become the #1 cause of traffic accidents and traffic fatalities in the United States. And red light, the cameras at the at prime intersections have been proven to save many, many lives, reduce fatalities, and even reduce the amount of damage that is done to the car as well as to people just by having the cameras there. So for now, we did very, very well on the House side, and if it wasn't for the fact that the leadership is basically, we know he's not going to allow it to be heard, so time will just basically expire. But it really was a good trip. It was a lot of good FaceTime with different members of the House, and it was good for them to see the city of Homestead being proactive in Tallahassee. So it was very successful. Thank you, Mayor.
So you resolved the tax issue too? Okay.
We talked about the tax issue as well, and I just kept saying, be kind to Homestead. Just remember Homestead and be very kind to us. And they kind of chuckled, just like they gave me almost the identical smile you're giving me right now. We did always talk about it, because I said, well, while I'm here, and so it's not going to be as bad as we think. There's no support for a total banning of property taxes in lieu of a 2% sales tax increase. That's just going to die by the wayside. And my feeling from the members that I visited is they're really going to deal with the issue of portability. The issue of people to actually move and take some of the value of their home and to be able to move that value. That seemed to be the way that they might be going with the tax issue, the property tax issue. That wouldn't be as hurtful to the cities. So it still would be a hit, but not quite the hit that we probably would have expected. I don't think it's going to be as bad as we expected, but I still think we're going to take a hit. Thank you.
Mr. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. We have, no business.
No business. Ms. Wallman?
I do have just a brief comment, and I'd like to address the situation that happened last week with an unregistered lobbyist speaking before the council. Sheila, I would like to ask for you to have IT work with you to put something on your computer so that you can check them the minute that they come before the podium, so that you can punch in it, because we don't know. We have no idea. Yeah. We have no way of knowing. And is that doable? Is that possible? Yes.
Currently, what we have is a printout, and it was basically, I always understood that because the particular person that spoke worked as with the lobbyist, I always under the impression that it was okay because she has spoken on behalf of applicants in the past.
As well as I.
So when this happened, I did consult with the city attorneys, and he did say that no, she must register as herself. And immediately then I contacted her, and she did come in and register. So we do monitor that, but it was just that case where.
Well, and I'm sure that, and Jen's in the audience tonight, I'm sure she had no idea that she was speaking out of turn. And, but I think maybe we should send a letter out to all lobbyists on record and say that if they want to send spokespeople to represent an entity, that spokesperson must be registered as well, not just under the company name, but must be registered as an individual.
Exactly.
Is that doable?
Yes, of course.
And that way,
and I think it's also on the lobbyist form as well.
Because I'm sure it's happened many times, and none of us has, known about it or realized that because they work for a certain company doesn't mean that they didn't have to be registered. So, with that being said, then thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wallman. Mr. Porter?
No business, Mayor. Thank you.
Any update in Tallahassee?
Busy place. As Ms. Bell said, they're all really wrapped up in the ad valorem issue, and it's an ever-changing pushing and shoving match. So it's just kind of wait and see. But there was a lot of activity.
I think the Herald said it all this morning. Until the governor intervenes and bring the two closer together, this tax issue, we probably won't have a decision before the session ends. So
I will say one thing that was kind of humorous. They were doing the paella lunch with all the Dade League of Cities membership in the inner courtyard, and then they walked through the Capitol to the front of the building and blasted the municipalities for calling Tallahassee and complaining about, what they were going to do, or what they potentially were going to do with the ad valorem, because they were saying, the only people we're hearing from is the governments that spend your tax dollars. Like they're not spending it up there, It was really quite humorous to see all you do is walk around the other side of the building was a whole different flavor. Anyway, just interesting.
Thank you, Ms. Bell, for representing us well up to Tallahassee. We appreciate it.
One more comment, Mayor. Something that I would like us to think about, and maybe we could discuss it with the attorneys. Some of the other cities, municipalities are, there's been a couple of Attorney General opinions about installing the cameras anyway, because of the fact of that it's basically a matter of interpretation of the law. And we prefer for the state to go ahead and allow us to issue citations. And there's nothing that prevents us from putting cameras and viewing the cars. And there's actually been a couple of different AG opinions on whether we can issue traffic citations or not, because we really couldn't afford to do it unless we could issue citations so that it could pay for itself. And like I said, it's a public safety issue. We're not looking to profit. We're looking for this, to pay for itself. But some of the cities are doing it anyway. They are going ahead and they are installing their cameras and they're issuing citations. And they said that according to the Attorney General's opinion, there's nothing that would forbid them from doing that. Even though I know our attorneys are a bit conservative and in some ways, and legally conservative. That I think that's something that we may want to look into. So if it is okay with council and with the manager, I think that maybe we should have the attorneys just take a look into that with the Attorney General's opinion on whether we could cite or not. Because this is the bottom line. This is the bottom line. If law says that a police officer must personally eyewitness the infraction, that's what the law says, that the officer must personally witness that. Well, I say, then put a police officer in a room viewing the video of the infraction, then let the police officer view the video and write the citation. Then now the police officer has witnessed it. You like the way I think?
Well, let the attorneys take a look at it and see what happens.
Okay. Does that make sense? Okay. I think it's worth a shot.
Right.
There's more than one way to skin a cat, as they say.
Mr. Manager, any business for the committee?
None, Mayor.
Mr. Attorney? None, Mayor. Well, thank you all very much for coming out for the committee. Our meeting is adjourned. Mr. Vice